We're seeing community conversations around the Redacted Regiment Warbond really heat up, with some already saying it is dead on arrival. Now, I've been looking over the weapons and gear, and after testing out Stealth in a previous Helldivers upload, let's just say I've got some major concerns, which is what I want to dive into today. Please take a moment to hit subscribe and ring the notifications bell as we dive into what is happening within Helldivers. Normally, I would bounce around between a multitude of Helldivers topics, but today, it's all about the Redacted Regiment Warbond and some of my major concerns with this upcoming in-game offering. So, to kind of lay this out for you, let's take a look back at the last 4 Warbonds, because we can see a pattern here, if you know where to look. I mean, hell, you could go back even further than the last 4 Warbonds, but like I said, I'm a little bit time limited, so we are limiting this to just the last 4. First up was the ODST Legendary Warbond that dropped on August 26th, and everyone was jacked for this one, right? I mean, ODST, Helldivers, it's a match made in heaven and was heavily requested by the player base. Now, in terms of drip, I've got to say for the weapons and armor, the art team nailed it, which I would say is the norm with Arrowhead when it comes to the designs in-game. I mean, they really bring it, and they deserve the credit, at least from that department. But within the ODST offerings themselves, we got 3 primaries, a secondary, and 2 medium armor sets, which seemed odd as they were both medium sets, but yeah, there you go. Now, first off, I'm going to say I'm not trying to drop a hot take or rage bait here. These are just my opinions, and we may disagree, but at the end of the day, we can still be friends and dive together. Anyways, that said, ODST in terms of power levels was very underwhelming, and also handcuffed by the studio, who did not include any weapon customization. Now, despite the medium armor pin found on the MA5C, it just wasn't able to really connect with players. And according to Helldive.live, which tracks players and pick rates, the highest percentage they currently show for the MA5C is 2.2%. for the Illuminate faction, while the others are actually lower. The other primaries included the M7S and M90A, both of which show pick rates in the 0.6 to 0.7% area, while the M6C sidearm is consistently in 8th place for pick rates across all 3 factions. Frequent comments from players included that the M90A wasn't medium armor pin, the M7S lacked punch, which was further hampered shortly thereafter when Arrowhead doubled the drag factor, hurting the SMGs with damage to distance drop-off and so on. But at least for me, where ODST really fell flat was how it was advertised as a stealthy warbond. The feet-first passive, which allowed divers to make 50% less noise when moving, really wasn't effective, and the suppressed weapons were quickly found to have 0 effect on detection versus non-suppressed weapons like the Senator or even other SMGs. Hot on the heels of the ODST Legendary Warbond, we got Dust Devils, which came out about a week and a half later on September 2nd. At that time, players were introduced to the still extremely popular incendiary round slinging assault rifle, the Coyote, along with the versatile spear gun and Neats, which spread napalm fire everywhere, and of course, the devastating solo silo. Dust Devils turned out to be a top-tier warbond with power and versatility, with only the Pineapple Grenade really missing the mark. Desert Stormer was the featured armor passive, which is currently the most popular armor set passive versus the Terminated faction, while also slotting in as the number 7 and number 5 most popular for the Bots and Squid, respectively. Yeah, overall, Dust Devils was a win, and if Democratic Detonation is S tier, I'd probably place Dust Devils somewhere in the A tier category just below it because it was that good. December 2nd rolls around and we get Python Commandos, kind of unexpectedly because it was seen to be out of rotation, but nevertheless, there it was. This warbond is a bit too new for Helldive.live to show any pick rates, but if I had to guess, the AR-GL21 1-2 assault rifle would come in somewhere in the bottom third of the charts, while the M1000 maxi gun and chainsword were hot when they launched, but then quickly fell down the player charts, becoming niche picks, and I rarely see anyone using these items when I matchmake for rando dives. However, the hot dog was found to be an S-tier item, going on flame-belching rampages versus whatever faction you wanted. Now, unfortunately, the rock-solid passive was an odd mix of 100% melee damage with extra protection against ragdolling, and yeah, I do use it from time to time, especially versus the bots, but I wouldn't say it's the top of the class. Really, one of the shining lights for Python Commandos wasn't in the Warbond itself, but the Superstore, that being the double freedom shotgun, which is an animal. And for many players, this was the ODST M90A we never got. And finally, our last Warbond review dropped on December 18th with the legendary Killzone items returning after a year hiatus. And what can you say about Killzone that hasn't been said? I mean, it's bad. There's no way around it. All three primary weapons are seldom picked, and no customization was offered on any of them, which I do beg Arrowhead to reconsider here in 2026. We need full customization on all weapons, sidearms included, in our armory. But like usual, the drip here in Killzone looked great with the glowing eyes, and the armor passive of Acclimated providing 50% resistance to basically all elemental effects is severely underrated, at least in my humble opinion. So, to provide a quick recap, we had a true winner in Dust Devils, a rather meh offering in Python Commandos, the ODST Warbond, which looked great but was actually below average, and then the Killzone Warbond, which was just not good. And again, don't kill me in the comment section. These are my opinions built on 1,000 hours spent in game and diving strictly on level 10s. Which brings me up to the meat and potatoes of this discussion, the Redacted Regiment Warbonds set to release on January 20th. And after these last 4 Warbonds, Arrowhead needs a home run. And from what I'm seeing, well, let's just say that I have concerns, especially on the premise that this Warbond is set to be our new stealth Warbond. Basically everything ODST couldn't live up to. First off is the concealed insertion booster, which, I'm sorry, I hate to say that things are dead on arrival, but it really feels like it. A smoke screen when deploying in your Hellpod might be useful for a split second, like if you're able to hit a hardened target with your pod and then kind of conceal yourself in the cloud, but we've often seen enemies target us even while in the middle of smoke screens, so I don't see this booster getting much use. Likewise, the P35 Re-Educator looks very niche. A dart gun that fires out some sort of elementally infused darts against targets. I guess we'd have to wait to see it in action, but if this thing has the same sound profile, say, as other sidearms like the Senator, why on earth would I sacrifice all that damage and AP4 to bring a dart gun into battle? Know what I mean? The C4 itself looks interesting, but having to sacrifice a backpack slot for what essentially amounts to grenades seems a bit pricey. Anyways, the lure mines, at least to me, look like it could be the real sleeper item here, with the ability to stick these to surfaces and attract enemies to its position. This could lead to some unique POI clears, luring defenders out of the area, making them super easy to finish up and clear. But of everything here in Redacted Regiment, my biggest concerns lie with the primary weapons and armor sets. Reduced Signature, the new armor passive, not only reduces our noise levels, but also the range at which an enemy can detect us, essentially giving us the best of the ODST armor, along with the detection passive from the Scout armor, comboing the two together and instantly making the ODST and Scout armors kind of worthless. I mean, on paper, Reduced Signature sounds like it could be something special, but there are the ever-present concerns with stealth, enemy detection, and kind of the rest of it. Which brings us to ground zero, the primary weapons. These basically look like a Diligence Rifle and Liberator AR reskinned with an integrated suppressor, and we've seen how busted suppressors are in game. I tested it out in this video, and outside of misses versus automaton troopers, suppressed weapons were identical to non-suppressed weapons. Also, a little side note here, but if you watch the latest Redacted Regiment trailer video, The divers are nowhere close to engaging in stealthy tactics, instead charging headlong into these automaton enemy areas, which may or may not have any connection to how these weapons will function, but I thought I'd mention it, so there you go. But yeah, this, at least to me, is concerning because this entire Redacted Regiment Warbond is said to be built on stealth and subterfuge, which doesn't currently work inside of Helldivers. I mean, we've seen it all. We've tested it. And depending on the armor pin values of these two weapons, along with whatever the dart gun can do, and if enemy detection stays where it currently sits right now in the game, this Warbond has the potential to crash and burn right out of the gate. Now, for this thing to truly work, and I'm talking about stealth here, we need the sound profiles of suppressed weapons to have a noticeable difference to that of weapons without suppressors. Plus, enemy detection is going to take some work to allow these new armor sets to actually be effective and to shine. Will it happen next week, and will there be significant changes made by the Arrowhead devs to maximize this stealth-centric Warbond is something I honestly don't know, but I'm going to say this, after months and months with no new content, the absolute abject failure of Into the Untested, and then 1 out of the last 4 Warbonds actually connecting and staying connected with players, Arrowhead needs Redacted Regiment to make a monster splash, and I fear, especially with how stealth currently works in the game, that we're instead looking at a dud. But that's just my thoughts on it all, and here's where you get to drop a comment. How are you personally feeling about Redacted Regiment? I mean, outside of the drip, which does look good, are you feeling good about using these weapons and armor in a stealthy way? Remember to hit subscribe and to ring the notifications bell to receive my latest upload alerts. Thanks goes out to all of our current channel members, for without your support, content like this would not be possible. Until the next one, this is LtBuzzLitebeer, signing off.